6 days of pure magic, Human Design Rave Festival 2024.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Human Design Rave Festival 2024. And today we have a very interesting guest, Hennes, who is actually a part of Human Design community. And we're very, very curious to know what it is, how it works, and all of it. For myself, it's extra interesting because when I discovered human design, I lived in the community, on the lands, growing communal food, having community experiences, giving birth and raising children for almost 10 years. And when I started going deeper into human design, for me, it was like, my whole community should about it. We all should implement these things. It seemed nearly impossible because everybody were doing their own thing, and there was no that passion like I had to the system, which also was like, I found it and it started immediately passion. It's slow. So many of these things seemed like nearly impossible. So when I heard, Hennes, about your experiment and your project, it was like, wow, people are really doing it. It's something nearly incredible. So please, let's start with just presenting you and hearing your story of how you met the system and how the idea itself was born.
Thank you. Hi, Julia. Hi, Veronica. Thanks for having me. Um, as you said, a lot of people are wondering. They are really doing it. The idea is in the field. One of the feedbacks that we get a lot is that we wanna be part in a human design conversation for more than just an hour, even with strangers. So we created this place in Portugal. Out of the blue, we just met there. We got to know each other in Germany and Austria before, but we said we want to be surrounded by human design and not doing introductions about human design when you meet somebody at some event and talk about it, but really to have it in a day-to-day basis and live by it, or trying to. So we established this place in Lagos, Portugal, at the beautiful Algarve, with about 5, 6 in the first year, and we grew to 20 people. It's a beautiful site. Also, the weather in the very south you can get in Europe is very contributional, also during winter season. Yeah, we also had kids around from the very beginning, the most beautiful creatures to interact human design wise, because you really can observe them, and we were not pulling anything over them, or they kind of lived freely on the land, but it's the most beautiful way to observe human design when it's pure and not so conditioned. So yeah, we are heading into our third season. We're not sure if we hold the same place for long now, but it's going to be a farewell for this place that we rented the last 2 years. And those 4 weeks, we already have a lot of guests from all over the world, and everyone brings in their own beauty and individuality. We have a good mixture of starters and experts, so we're not radical, but we try to establish a day-to-day life where it's implemented, and where you can easily observe it in a long-term setting. Yeah. Trying to generalize it within the first couple of sentences, a hard one. Yeah.
Wow, but let's start from the very beginning. Maybe you, as one of the core people, how was your landing with the system? and how it led you to the idea itself?
Just before Corona kicked in, I already had some knowledge about human design. And that for me personally, I did a tabula rasa. So I get rid of all the companies that I was a stakeholder in the projects I sold in Austria. So I really wanted to start fresh, which was generally on my mind before human design hit me. And what I would say was very correct for me to go to Portugal. And I got to know my manifestor girlfriend, Diana. Also, our relationship started very correct, human design wise, what we know now. And we were looking for a place where we could bring people together. And this was at the Algarve in Lagos. By that time, Thales, a mental project that was also part of the team. But as you might know, human design and the normal world, when you do organization or economics, it's a hard one. Organizing events can be brutal. Also, the co-living is not the happy hippie every day. So we really also had hard times fighting on ourselves and whatever came up during that period. But we created this safe space where this was allowed to happen. We were allowed 24/7 to be kind of strange, because this is what human design especially is watched by others from the outside, maybe. And by the time we established a nice human design life on site, we were able to invite people. So we did our human design cafe every Sunday, because when we went through the city of Lagos, we got to know people, and in the first place, people seemed to be very interested in it. And so we invited them over for our open house things on Sundays. And a lot of people that joined the Human Design Cafe or a workshop that we offered tended to want to move in as quick as possible. But we were very, very picky on who can move in and who cannot, because living together, yeah, needs a stable environment. And human design itself is the challenge. We were trying to live by the kind of rules or the etiquette of human design in the day-to-day life. And I would say after 2 or 3 months, it really, yeah, got on a cellular level. So my motivation is fear. And I went out of my room and was laid back, but this took like 2 or 3 months where everything was calm, and my 3x57 was eased with the surrounding. I had my cave established, and also when I was wearing my sunglasses, nobody talked to me. And being asked if I'm open for a question was really a huge thing after a couple of months. And we could learn from each other so much, and everybody has some similarities regarding gates, channels, type and profile. So whenever there was new people coming in, especially on those open house Sundays, because it was free of charge, we just had cake, tea, and coffee, and everybody was invited. So it really was very easy to get in contact with people, because all those that were coming in, surely they were interested, and they brought in their own experience, what they already had, knowing about human design or not, regarding their families and ex-girl and boyfriends and everything. So quickly, every meeting turned out magical, and some people stayed at least overnight or moved in. And the field changes with every person that moved in with us. Yeah.
So you were in general, how many people around in number?
The site can host roughly 20 to 25 people. Yeah. And that's we have nearly as many sleeping rooms on site. So it's a huge building and 4 tiny bungalows and apartments in the garden. So you can also host events there. What we're trying to do by the end of February with our Human Design Weekend. Yeah, we thought we would have way more events that could raise the money for the accommodation for the people living there. But as we learned pretty quickly, it's really a thing when you try to organize something really with the etiquette of human design. Everybody is so unique as a group. It always was a really huge and great experience. But even those small things I mentioned, like the Human Design Cafe, you have to find people that really have a yes to fill the bar or carry the fridge or make some tea and coffee or even show up. So we also had 2 examples of a Human Design Cafe where the guests were coming, but no one from the crew was at the pool bar in the garden because nobody had a yes, and that was the experience for the guests, and they had a good time before one of our residents showed up. All those kind of awkward moments when the real world meets the human design world, which might not be strange to us because I'm talking to experts. I wouldn't consider myself an expert. I first heard about human design 4 years ago, but I fell in love with everything involved in it. And yeah, as I also have the Clarion, I tend to want to spread it. So we hosted the co-living in human design in Portugal because it's in the field. Everybody wanted to. And I said, okay, let's do it. And I also took the risk economically, which also was completely crazy because it was still regarding the human design world, and the rules of the normal world, they do not count there. But I'm sure during the organization of your beautiful festival, you know exactly what I mean.
But can you specify what exactly? Like you took a responsibility for renting the place with your own budget, or how did it work logistically?
Okay, as the landlords live in the normal world and want to have their rent, I was the one to collect it from the community. But people that gave our promises at the beginning of, let's say, October, when our season started in November and took for 5-6 months, they promised anything in my aura because I have a heart ego. And yeah, when the time came and the promises had to be kept, they were pretty sure that human design says they don't have to keep that promise because, yeah.
So basically, people didn't pay rent. That's what you mean.
We had people leaving overnight, leaving the key on the porch, saying, "Okay, we're spontaneous people, even though we are emotionally defined, but yeah, the decision kind of grew and we gotta go, and we're pure individuals, so here's my contract. I'm pure individual. We don't need this." And I was the one talking to the landlord side. So, and they thought this was, yeah, like crazy people, because sometimes I didn't even blame them. Sometimes the conversation got stuck for a month, people not leaving their room. So that's what I mean when I say we also had hard times facing the not self, because everything was allowed and nobody was called strange just because of their moves or what they were saying. So I would say it's really everybody involved brought a huge amount of understanding, and some childhood topics and traumas came up during that period as well, which is absolutely clear when you're able to live out your design most freely in comparison to the normal life. You are able to live out your design not being interrupted for as long as you want. Yeah, and I think in total it was in the second season we had 5 people that didn't pay rent and just left. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
But for me, it's interesting because, you know, it's one thing to experiment with your design, and it's another thing to use your design as an excuse, because those are two different things. And like if you took the promise and you're with an open ego, it's not an excuse that you have an undefined ego to not keep your promise, because you know you overpromise and you shouldn't make any promises. So you should think about it prior, how to exactly do it so that you don't burden yourself and take only things that, you know, are gonna, like, especially if you're a generator, I can talk from my own personal experience. When my sacral says yes to something, no matter how much hardship appears or whether I have a plateau and it looks like nothing's moving or nothing's happening, it's just at some point it moves on and gets to where it's when you responded to something. So
Yeah. But that's a general thing. I would say not a lot of people that are in their experiment for less than 7 or 10 years you can have any guarantee of. It was one of the most experienced person that was involved in the project as well, mental projector. But nobody's free of that not self, and nobody's free of even after the 10 years. And using your design as an excuse is all over the place. That's I think it's way more common that really purely living it out. I didn't meet a lot of testimonials or people I would say, okay, these are people I really can look up to. If I want to drop a name, I would say Ceren Una from Turkey. She moved in during the second season. She's into human design like 10 years and more, and consulted a lot of different teachers from all over the world. So I would really call her a human design analyst, even though she didn't like the term teacher. But I think she was the most skilled person on site ever. And from my perspective, from all of the people I got to know in real life and in Aura, she was the one. But she also had her days when she said, okay, this is my phase. I know myself. I'm emotionally defined. I do this and that. Shouldn't be an excuse, but it takes some time, and you can't be in Aura with people for a couple of days when you feel this. I don't know. I'm not emotionally defined, but I also had my stuff in Portugal when for 2 or 3 days I was just in my room or processing something, walking to the beach, not talking that much. And this is the sacred space. It's not a hip retreat where you can have a good time and find your next partner or have a good party. It could really be tough when you allow yourself to surrender and just let go. And then stuff comes up that you weren't able to predict, and you might have given a promise, or you thought or expected the season or the month or weeks to turn out differently. But yeah, we were facing some blizzards and tornadoes.
And so it was a long-term engagement then when you started. So it was not intended for people to come like on a holiday and they could work their own jobs if they had, or was it like that? And now what is the difference with the one, because there is a co-living experiment coming up in February for a month, for 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
It's that one is going to be more holiday oriented with human design touch, or co-living experiment, or how is it? What's the idea and the difference between the two, maybe?
As I said, we are facing season number 3 this year. It's from February 11 to March 11, 2024. So it's actually coming up in 6 weeks. Yeah. Compared to the first 2 seasons, I would say in the first season we were just playing around. There were some people from the human design bubble heading to Portugal, and we wanted to have a place for our own. And this one just got renovated, so we get a good deal, and we brought in friends and family. In the second season, we were sure enough that this is kind of a business case, or people loved it so much they wanted more workshops. So we organized some experts to be there and offer workshops for certain topics. But as I mentioned, it was hard to combine the working factor with the co-living factor. People should
And you
be
mean experts? Sorry to interrupt you, just to make sure. On human design or different subjects?
No, especially experts on human design. And people should be able to whether have the money to stay there, not needing anything from the surrounding. And this was the mixture. We had a core group of organizers from season 1, and we said, okay, we can expect to have like 7 workshops that cost 50 euros. So if the core team is working on the events and the other people are just guests, we can establish both a co-living spiced with events for people from the outside or from the area. People were flying in, especially from the German-speaking world, from Switzerland and Germany. But it was too hard to combine these worlds. So we said we would rather prefer to have co-living not being interfered by events too much. So we organized an event in Austria in summer, and we got to know really good friends like Bambaji, who is part of your festival. Wonderful, lovely projector from the UK. Janica Leia will be with us with her family, and Shad from France. So it's gonna be very colorful, and we're not promising anything ourselves, so also not any event. We try to pre-organize something to bring them together in a Telegram group. It's a thing. I don't know. I was doing events for 20 years. So from festival to comedy, concerts, from 20 people to 8,000 people. And if you are used to conditioned rules or rules from the normal world, you're able to organize such things. And then we organized an event for 10 days in Austria with 20 human design people. And parallel in Vienna, Ilse Sandler did also a human design event. So we kind of teamed up in the beginning, but we've seen it's a hard one. So everybody did their own thing. We did a co-living in St. Pölten, an hour away from Vienna, and she did a very theoretical thing with a lot of lectures and experts in Vienna, also roughly 20 people. And the amount of work is enormous. It's unbelievable. It's almost the same compared to, I did the Beat Patrol Festival for 8,000 people in Austria with 4 floors and 50 artists and 8,000 spectators. The amount of work was pretty much the same, I would say.
I love what you're saying because it's like explains our trip for the past months. It's like
If
the
not half
most
a year.
challenging thing. It's a lot of pleasure in it, but honestly, I have also, like you, experience. I'm coming from the business world, and not only also the NGO world for the past 10 years, which also is let's say not, it's like an alternative to the business world. So it, at least to my logical mind, it was like, that must be different. Well, no, it's in the same dance Maya, you know? So when we organized this festival, trying to do our strategy and authority and have everybody else be correct, it's so challenging. It's so challenging. And it's so rewarding at the same time. But yeah, I perfectly can imagine, or let's say, I understand from where you're coming. Yeah. Yeah. And everybody wants it to
Identify
be so
with it.
individual and doing their own thing. And but also it's the times, sorry to just last thing to say, it's also the times we're coming. It's not about tribal and big gatherings anymore so much. It's smaller, and for resonance, you know, your vibe attracts your tribe. And yeah, so it's apparently it's also the coming times.
With all those limitations. And when you think you're done, you have an expert that prefers to have a balcony because he is mountain high, and also the cacao should be cold in the morning. And the funny saying always was, oh, if we just, if everybody just, if we would just, everybody just, no, it's just not that simple. If the world stops littering, if everybody stops littering, we won't have any trash in the ocean. Yes, but if you try to organize a group, like 6 people or more, that's spicy in human design. Let's just, everybody should just know it's not that simple. You sometimes
And
gotta
actually,
ask.
I have a thought, you know, for a long time, because as a community being, I am 37, 40, and it's always this state of feeling the part of something bigger than you are. It's just so natural for myself. But what I realized in my experience living in a very tight community, yeah, sharing small territory, and in the first 3-4 years, it was even like practicing in the morning together, cooking breakfast together, going shopping together, greeting guests together, evening circles together, and it's always everything together. Even myself, I was like, give me a breath, you know? But it was really, really, really beautiful. But main question to you is the way I felt it, that having just human design as a glue to community may not be enough. There should be something else, because human design in the end is a system that describes a nature of reality, the inner reality or the outer reality. But there should be something else that literally glues people together. Either it is love of nature and working on the land, or it's educational approaches to children, and then it's around children, or it's art and then it's around art, or it's IT people, and then it's around being nomads and sharing other activities, or it's yoga, or I mean, you name it. So that is my question, whether you were only, or you are actually, why am I speaking in the past tense, only creating activities around the system, or there are other things that are uniting?
I would say yes, you would need another form of glue. As Diana is coming from also a long history of community, she was our expert. And you would need somebody like the village wise people that that can negotiate between parties that are not on the same side because they are quarreling or something is a bit off in the community. Our container and space and time, I would say, were too short. But what the people are really dreaming of is a whole village. When human design is the magic key, is already the glue, because they can mind their own thing and do their business, but living in a place where human design kind of is the appreciated law, or the glue between people. So what we established was maybe phase 1 or line 1 and line 2, 3, we were starting mutating, but what everybody is dreaming of is a whole village. But what we learned, or in our laboratory of human design, was just we wanted to take the next step every time. We wanted to pre-organize it, and we tended to overthink it. But when we were there in the first 2 or 3 months, I was the one saying we won't have any output. We won't go out with an event or market anything or advertise. We should really work on the basics. And that's what we found. In the normal world, we could all agree on how a stupid refrigerator is used. Most people wouldn't even accomplish a co-living without human design for a week with strangers. So we had to remind ourselves on the basic, which is strategy and authority in human design. But really, we know that we know nothing because we haven't practiced the practical side of human design. Everybody comes with bits and pieces of the theoretical side. Some might really be experts, or for a very long time in the experiment. But we had very experienced people running into 50-year-old 1-3 manifester from Holland during our experience in Austria, our festival that we did in Austria for 20 people. People from Singapore, really tiny, cute female from Singapore, and then this huge manifester, Dutch manifester, different cultures, different languages. So we really had to remind ourselves every time, let's get back to basis. We know nothing, because everyone is unique, and every relationship is unique, and every person you meet, you create a third person, aura-wise and chart-wise. And it's also going to be unique. So remind yourself that from the practical side, if you don't train it, you can read all of the books, you can listen to all of the audios, best quality, raw origin material. But yeah, then you have to enter the ring in the real life, and you're facing other unique beings, and you got to be reminded, okay, you start at scratch, at 0, tabula rasa every time. Yeah. And then we knew, okay, it took us 4 or 5 months in the first season that we did the first event for outsiders, because then we were kind of sure that we knew how to basically treat each other there's a new guest coming in. She's a projector. Okay, who's the one showing her where the bathroom and the balcony is, and the toilet and the kitchen, and where she can do this and that, and host her properly, and yeah. By that time, everybody on site knew what it means when a 2-4 projector is going to visit us, so that they don't have a strange time with us. Even we had a strange time, yeah.
So maybe an idea would be that everybody who comes first has a reading at least, or leaving your design course,
Yeah,
or at least
that's
experiment for 3 years or something like that.
that's what we said for the second season. The first season was, okay, this is just a bunch of people. It's very chaotic, but we know what we want. We want to have a place where we can stick to human design. And this one should be able to grow. So maybe there's a whole village, city, country, or world established. Anyhow, and it didn't work out that well because the levels were too different. So we said for the second season, we will just have people that are experienced and have at least 2-3 years of human design experience or more. And it was even more difficult because in the first year, we kind of had a hierarchy. It was clear whose department is which and who's the end of the supply chain. When it comes to human design knowledge, we had one person. And he thought there was clear field for him in the second season, but then we brought in more expertise, and something was a bit off because they were hustling or not on stage, not in a fight, but different expertise on site. It was difficult as well. So doing an event together was kind of unthinkable after 2 or 3 months. Yeah, we weren't able to to bring in all the flavors, and some dropped out because they didn't like the concept of we are going through all the phases, and if it takes 3 months and we're still in a process, then we won't think about doing an event for outsiders. So it also was a very fresh start again, and it will be this year as well. And I'm always fascinating, and I have to giggle when I talk about it. People call me or text me, and they want to have more info. So I tend to say, okay, we have a website. I did a video on this and that. You find us there. Maybe when they still stick to it, I say, maybe you know somebody that you could talk to that was involved in the project before, so that you get a clearer picture. Yeah, but I have to know. So kind of they want to know the outcome. And I say, that's the magic, that's the beauty of the whole thing. I can't tell you, but who's going to be involved? Which room do I get? Is it allowed to have this and that? But I have to decide from what I feel from my sacral, or being kind of the security guard of the project, who comes in and who better stay out, because it's not good for them, and also done not for the community. And then we have these 20 people. Some of them know each other, some don't. And it's the third time. It will be a cocktail of human design people and their interactions, and maybe their guests and family that visits them, whatever. And it's so absolutely unpredictable. And this year will be all about that. So what I learned from my being an event manager for 20 years, I don't give any recommendations even, or predictions. You have a yes, then you come. If you feel invited enough, you better should come. And this is it. And then it might be correct, but no predictions what's gonna happen, and yeah, how all of this ends up. And it's really a beautiful example of the bigger thing that we see outside in the world. Yeah.
I never lived in a community, but I visited a sustainable project in Nottingham, England, or close to Nottingham. So it was like a permaculture sustainable project with completely closed cycle, where they had 5 houses, so for 5 families, and everything was taught in such a way that they they're absolutely independent, a closed system, energetically wise, water wise, food wise, everything. And each family had their own work, so also independent from the community. And even they said that even all the original people didn't stay. Maybe at the time I visited, and this was like year 20 maybe, or of the experiment. It's not human design, just sustainable living. Maybe only one family from the original families was there. So apparently it's difficult in all these communities to survive. Also in Bulgaria, we had, because I have a permaculture farm, but it's a family farm. And we really wanted to have, we have people around in the villages, surrounding villages, which are into permaculture and stuff, but of course, mainly people are just traditional. And everything I heard in Bulgaria for communities, permaculture communities, maybe they existed for 1, 2, 3 years, 4 maximum, I think, and then they're just not sustainable. So apparently there is no formula. And especially when we talk about human design, as you said, it's so unique. It's literally unorganizable, because as we know, that's energy, you cannot control it. It is what it is. It happens what it happens, especially when you're just the passenger. But there is one thing I'm thinking of how to make it more practical. Still, we live in the material world. So apparently the not self, and also Ra says that it needs rules to be organized, because it's just being chaotic and not being correct. For instance, for an emotional person, they can bring such a chaos to everybody else. So even in such a community where you come with awareness, you cannot disregard the material world and the dense Maya we live in, because all of us are being conditioned by the program, even by the planets, by our own cultural, as you said, differences, and family conditioning and personal conditioning and all kinds of conditioning. So it's a challenge, and still it's so beautiful that you had the courage to organize and take the risk to be behind that, because those are the real examples and the real experiment. That's the real experiment, to go live it, really. So it's really admirable. And you said to us that now you're trying to move to make like a second experiment in Vienna, in the northern part of Europe, as compared to the south part of Europe. So that would be amazing to see it happen. And I'm really curious how things will evolve for you, and how this knowledge will be used in practicality and not only in theory.
Best practice would be if we can be an inspiration for other people to do so, because the idea itself is nothing special. As Julia mentioned in the beginning, they are actually doing it. Yeah, everybody could. When you do a group of people rent a flat together somewhere, they can have a human design co-living. Or even when you have mindful parents that teach you human design, you can have a kind of family human design co-living. And if a mayor would have the the balls to launch a human design village. It could also be. So we hope we are an inspiration for more people to do co-livings like that, where it can be used as the perfect tool for communities in my point of view. If there are certain rules that had to be respected, that would help. But again, a lot of people said they cannot say yes to the project right now because they are emotional. They need to take time till 1 week before, or at least when it's already running, which is a hard thing.
So you are basically creating the platform, you allowing the platform for the experiment to happen, and that is your main role. The question is whether you are also the one who is setting up the rules, or you're allowing the core team to set up the rules. For me, for example, it's very important because the community that I lived in, interestingly enough, I was sharing it with a little bit in the interview with Sonia. It was super surprising interview, was based on the Tolkien, the calendar that showed up in our planet exactly same month and same year when human design showed up.
Oh.
And it's very magical tool, and it's based on work with time. So the principle there are also hexagrams and their tones and resonance and all of that. And each person was attuned to specific, just like now we have in human design, the profile, the genetic type. There are also these kind of categories, but we had a very specific rules of what kind of people doing what today during the day. Yeah, so some people were more attuned to work today in the community. Some people had to go and do work in the garden. Some people had to do work outside, so doing some kind of PR or shopping or whatever it is. And then in the end of specific cycle, we would get together and have a circle. And in the circle, one person was talking and the rest were listening until they're finished. And then the next person talks. And those sharings were making decisions, and it was really, really, really beautiful. But when there is no one person who takes responsibility, or a core penta that takes responsibility, no one is responsible for anything. And then the chaos is a very natural outcome. And that's why I asked you if there anything else other than human design, because once you have one individual gate or a 6th line, and I don't have anything to do with anything, and nobody wants to take really responsibility. And and in my case, by the way, at some point it was just nearly impossible to sustain the community because of that, and we all started paying rent. As simple as that. When before, literally, we all tried to make money together and sustain as the community. And at some point, the capitalistic system just had to break in because it proved itself. Yeah, and it's based on that, just like Veronica was saying, ego center, it's the materialistic part. Here are the contracts. Here we have the foundation, is the contract, is the deal. Yeah, it can be broken, but then if it can be broken, you also make a deal. If then, and that's simple logic. Otherwise, there always will be someone who's losing, isn't it?
Maybe there's someone out there, some mentor or Mäzen that has a lot of money, and you find somebody that brings in the money part, and you can try and error with the human design in community. That would be great, because it kind of was me, but it wasn't on purpose. But I had to giggle when you said if we're using any other tools or if I set the rules. In the first year, by the end, we had a guy from the UK who brought in a feeling circle. We should have a feeling circle every Tuesday, 11 in the morning. it's hard to find the right time when some are direct light and the others are indirect. And okay, even then it already starts. But we decided we should have a feeling circle on Tuesdays. I found the idea good, and we did it a couple of times. Just when mutative person came whose solar plexus defined, and found it very, very funny that 7 people without a solar plex defined are sitting on a table, spitting with their what they think they feel feeling circle. It was a nice tool. We played around. We said, okay, maybe that doesn't make too much sense. So establishing the rules and finding the right spices or how to deal with certain issues that we have experience with takes a lot more time. But we just did it. We were brave or stupid enough to kick it off and just do it. And we learned a lot, also the hard way. But you got to start at some point, right? We could be a good and a bad example in many ways, and hopefully we can be an inspiration. And if everything is happening correct, also all those mutations that hit us or visited us were kind of part of the big plan, I guess. So it's a priceless experience, and I could highly recommend to everybody who has the possibility to rent a place or is free enough to do tabula rasa and start it off again. Yeah, even 2 people can be a human design co-living if they respect each other's design. But I'd love to see at some point a community or village out there where you can enter with your human design ID and you treat all those magic people you meet there the way it's supposed to be, and other way around. And when we if we did our contribution to this, then I'm very glad we did. Yeah.
So what about this next project? What's about third episode? How is going to be different, and what principles are going to be the foundation of it?
As the problem in the second season was that we planned a lot of events, but at the end promises were broken or things changed for some players. We decided we just have a co-living the last 2 months instead of doing events that would have regained a lot of the rent that co-organizers yeah, they expected it to get it from the events, but they have to simply had to pay the rent then, and also a bit up on top of that, because yeah, as I mentioned, some just moved out overnight. So we said, okay, for the third season, we just have people that simply pay the rent, and if there's gonna be an event, we create it together, or even ask and invite everybody involved in the project if she or he wants to be part of the event. So we have still 2 units available. It's not one thing with one kitchen. It has like 6 or 7 kitchens in total, and living rooms. So it's divided in departments and units, also for families. We still have 2 available, but with all the others that we already know that they are coming. We did a Telegram group. I informed them there is the possibility, because we have a beautiful garden, that we host events. Some might be more motivated to do so, some less. Some just pointed out in the very beginning, okay, I'm gonna be a spectator, so good luck organizing the things. I will take part or not, and I will decide it on the spot. Okay. So we formed a Telegram group. We had a Zoom call, which is awkward for me. I love live conversations and live and in Aura meetings. So this was the main reason to do a co-living in Aura, and I was trying to bring the people on the same page, that they're gonna be part of this year. All of them beautiful human beings. But the challenges kicked right in the very beginning. And then we said, okay, now we'll have the Zoom call maybe in January. I'm not sure that the price is right. I'm not sure I have the energy by that time it is happening, and this and that. So it was pretty clear from a very early moment that we said, okay, it's gonna be a co-living. We just saved the date for one weekend in February. So if we might decide by the time we meet in Aura that we want to do something, we could use that date, which would be the 23rd of February, so 2 weeks after we move in. It's impossible to organize an event as I was used to in the normal world. But it will be called the Human Design Weekend from the 23rd to the 25th of February. And I'm not even sure that people will show up, because maybe we do not promote it. We're just in the area, and then we have 3 people over to have a coffee for 3 days with us. I really don't know. But that was my biggest learning after my first reading, when I decided to leave the event thing behind me. I was told that I should initiate nothing. Okay, that changed a lot. Because I was doing events for 20 years and it always was my initiation, even though I have the 21, 45 unconscious. But it just should be on response. And it's not a hell yeah. Anything event-wise. So I just know from now that on February 11th, we will be at least 16 people, and 2 units are still available. And our contract with the real world, the landlords, is till March 11. By the beginning, it was March 20, but 3 people or parties said they want to move out like around the 11th and not 20. They can make it till the very end. And then I said, okay, then we'll have an earlier end for everybody. So I want to have an experience for 4 weeks with the same people. So that is your question, Veronica. It's possible to join us for a weekend, and it's always possible to visit us when you announce it up front. But for us to have a good co-living experience, it's important when it's such a short time to have the same people involved, because everybody moving in or out changes the field a lot. This is what we experienced in the first 2 seasons that were almost going on for half a year. Yeah.
But practically, as a family, you have a partner and there are other families. You sign up a contract for for months. What happens later?
We had big plans in the first season and also in the second one, because we were co-living for almost half a year. We were longing to find a place that we could use the whole time. But when it comes to Lagos, the very beautiful and expensive Algarve, it's 3 or 4 times the price that we pay in winter. So we simply couldn't afford the same place in summertime. And we were looking to find a place that we could have 12 months a year, or even have the possibility to buy, or in exchange with a lot of people with the same idea. Everybody kind of has this center of the community, the heart, kind of community center, and then mobile homes around it. So that's the common idea in Portugal. A lot of tribes are moving to Portugal for a long time now, and for all those infected with human design, they have this idea of having a community center surrounded by mobile homes. For example, this would have been our approach, to find an investor that might has the land or the possibilities to make that happen. And especially for this year, as it's just 1 month, we could call it a co-living, but actually it's a 1 month vacation together with Human Design, likewise like-minded people. And I'm pretty sure, and I could also feel it in my body, that from this stage we're taking it to the next one, but it's impossible to predict what's going to happen. I wasn't sure to do it the third season even because beautiful Diana and me, we moved to Vienna after season number 2 last year in April. And we weren't sure if we'd do it anyway, but we kicked off this event in Austria, and from so many different countries in the world, we got visitors, and they became friends, and they are responsible, I would say, that we are doing the third episode because they were so curious about Portugal and of the people that are actually doing it, as you said. That we will do this year, having a lot of Human Design friends over, and yeah, hopefully we are co-creating the next big thing or small thing or co-living somewhere. But predictions and expectations are a real killer for the Human Design co-living. So I tend to say, expect nothing. Or as Ra said, do you need a reason to be here? You just simply be here. And if you happen to be in Portugal in this particular time from February 11th to March 11th, then you might have a co-living experience that you will never forget in your whole life.
Just show up. So if you have land, or if you would like to invest in co-living human design experiment, you know who to contact.
Just
And
give us money to burn.
especially if you have the money to burn, we're here. Julia and I will join with the festival experience and people, and we can create a village for experimenting all year round with human design on some very nice holiday location.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like we have the main download. It's just like scratching the surface because there is so much more that we could go deeper and deeper to go into nuances. I mean, I have a million of questions, but let's maybe keep it for now here. And I smell us meeting again. By the way, I live only an hour away from Vienna, so
Bratislava.
yeah, in the village around Bratislava, yeah. And I have a car, so it would be really interesting to really come and smell that thing in the aura as well. At the moment, I'm a little bit, as you see, I'm not there. I'm all over the place.
Not too bad.
Not bad at all. I'm the last one to complain, and soon we're coming to Sofia in Bulgaria, which is the place to be the end of January. And by that time, the festival will go. There will be more people coming with more questions. So we are very, very, very much gathering more questions so we can meet again, see how your experiment, the season 3 is going and where it takes you. So hopefully our festival is also kind of a playground for supporting you guys, because I mean, that's the beauty of life. It's life not based on the competition, but based on support. And I really see how it works and worked in my community, how we hosted people from different communities and co-created events together. And sometimes they supported us instead of really going into this competitive and who's the best and all of this. And actually, myself and Veronica are coming from this place in the creation of our festival. It's to bring all the analysts that can be like competing in real life as businesses, but as people who are in their own experiment. We are here to enrich each other, to support each other, to really inspire each other with who we are and what we are doing. It's not based on only judgment and criticism and competition that are there. They are part of bodycraft. We cannot erase these qualities, right? But it's other taking these things on the next level, on the higher frequencies, in speaking spiritual language. And I hope this really works. And I hope people don't see only the negative sides. Yeah, how you are fucking up, yeah, doing all these things and losing money and having chaos, but rather also having the most precious thing in life, which is human experience.
Yes, and also thanks to you and Veronica for hosting the Sofia event. Wishing you all the best for that, and greetings to all of your speakers. And also remind them that no matter how long you're in the experiment and your theoretical knowledge might be, the reality is the the place to be, and where it counts what you studied. It's a huge thing, the practical side of human design.
Yeah. So
Enjoy the ride.
if you have any questions you would like to ask Hennes, and maybe we will have a live Q&A during the festival with him. So send your questions to our email. We're going to put it in the comments, and we'll be glad to send them over, and we can continue the topic. And if you're interested to join the co-living experiment, there are 2 places left, so hurry up. If it's by design, if it's correct for you, you'll be there.
I would love some questions. So being part of the Q&A will be great during your festival. And warm greetings from Vienna.
Thank you, Hennes,
All
for spending time with us, sharing your experience. It's very, very valuable, very precious. And yeah, hope to see you in Aura next year.
Yeah, see you soon.
See you.
Thank you. And guys, 17th to the 22nd of January 2024, Human Design Rave Festival, live in Sofia, Bulgaria, and online worldwide. We're going to meet very soon in 3 weeks. And after that, in 6 weeks, comes the Portugal experiment. So it's full of human design out there. See you soon. Bye for now.
Get your tickets today. See you soon.